Hey everyone, Chris Johnson with Money Morning. Wall Street analysts have fallen asleep at the wheel when it comes to Palantir. The stock is up more than 150%, but an alarm clock's about to go off on November 7th. It's going to wake them all up, and it's the next big catalyst for the stock. I'm going to show you all the charts, talk about what's going on with the Wall Street analysts, and how that is ready to drive the stock up another 150% or so over the next 6 to 12 months. Stick with me for 5 or 10 minutes. You're going to learn a lot. You'll be a better investor afterwards. Let's jump into it. All right, so let's jump into it. Palantir is up 150% year to date. It's one of the strongest AI service companies out there. And when I say AI service companies, I'm talking about companies who are now using the AI technology to monetize it for other companies. IBM is another big name out there. Palantir is probably going to be one of the biggest ones out there before you know it. So it's up 150%. Does that make it special? Sure. But what makes it even more special is that the stock is ready to go another 100, maybe 150%. And it's all because of the Wall Street analysts and what they haven't done yet. Let me explain real quickly. When I look for a long-term trade, a strong bullish long-term trade, 3 things I want to see. I want to see strong technicals. I want to see strong fundamentals, and I want to see negative sentiment or pessimism. You've heard the term probably, stocks climb a wall of worry. Well, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for stocks that are climbing a wall of worry. Let me pull up this chart real quickly. You've probably seen this if you've been following my YouTube videos. This is all about the psychology of a rally or a bear market, right? Let's focus on the good right here. Despair. That's when everybody throws in the towel. That's the best time to buy a stock. That happened for Palantir back in 2023. Long-term charts, you had a stock that was deep in a bear market, and the company showed you a little bit of hope, but nobody was listening. Nobody wanted to hear. Despair, right? Disbelief is the next stage. That's where we are right now with Palantir. Analysts don't believe, investors don't believe. And we just had an analyst that downgraded the stock 2 weeks ago, and it's up 150% for the year. The fundamentals, though, are very strong. Remember, I said strong fundamentals, strong technicals, bearish sentiment. We're still right here. The next stage, acceptance, is one of the strongest of a bull market trend, and that's what you're about to see with Palantir. So you got to know the history here before you can understand where the stock's going. Here's your chart of Palantir. There's your 50-day moving average, nice, strong in a bullish pattern, and your 20-day. The stock's up 150%. Let's look at the monthly because it is where the story begins, way back here in 2000, 2001. So the company was new to the scene, and they had this new, let's call it technology, that was going to be the application of AI. They're a big data company, right? They go out and analyze big data using AI. So expectations were huge because you had NVIDIA and other companies that were building that AI technology. And if it had AI in the name, you probably remember this a couple years ago, had AI in the name or the company did AI business, everybody was all in until the company didn't show results. And that was the problem with Palantir. Let's go back to that first chart. Here's what happened. Right out of the gate, Palantir was loved by Wall Street. 82% of the Wall Street analysts had a buy recommendation on the stock in the first 6 months of its actual IPO or right after its IPO. That's disastrous because it says expectations are way up here. You better impress us. And it's hard for a new company to do that. And that's exactly what happened. Palantir came out and their revenue at first, because they were dealing with very small numbers, was good. But then it started to slide immediately. And the analyst said, forget about it. We're out. Think about it. You're trying to scale that revenue number up at the same time that you're growing it. It's very hard to do unless you're hitting on all cylinders. So Wall Street abandoned the stock. During 2001, 2002, they took all their buy recommendation and moved them all to holds and sells, even worse. So that's still where they are today. They still have this memory of these charts in their brain when they see Palantir. Here is what happened, though. Last year, 2023, you started to see a company that turned around in terms of beating the expectations. And when I say expectations, I want to make sure that I make a point here. So I will put the screen on me for just a sec. Expectations are what drives the market, period. You can say fundamentals, earnings and revenue, all those things. Yeah, they do lead to what drives the market, but expectations, whether you and I think a stock is going to go higher and the rest of the market, that is what truly generates buying interest in a stock. That's what drives it higher. You can have great fundamentals out there and a stock can go sideways. Look at what NVIDIA has done for the last couple of months after their earnings report, right? Expectations were way too high for NVIDIA and they can't beat them now. And that's what got them to where they were. Right now with Palantir, those expectations are very low, which makes it even a better trade. So they don't have to come in and blow Wall Street's hair back. All they have to do is come in and beat by a penny, which is what they've been doing. But things are getting better for Palantir. When we go back to that screen, July of 2023, we started to see that rate, the slope of that revenue surprise really start to take off. And the company is now hitting on all cylinders. They're bringing in those contracts with healthcare, with government, and if you're in the AI service industry and you're analyzing data, those are the two biggest companies or biggest sectors that you can work with, obviously. So they're doing the right things to grow that business right now, which is why Palantir is moving higher in terms of the fundamentals. It's just that this hasn't caught up. These are the Wall Street analyst recommendations for the stock. 37% have it ranked as a sell. You've got another 37% of them that have it as a hold, and just 26% that are ranking it right now as a buy, despite the fact that it is blowing the doors off of performance of other AI companies. And when we look at the revenue, if I were to go back to that revenue growth chart, and we can look at it right now, you've got growth of about 27% for Palantir last quarter, and that number is now trending up. When you look at Microsoft last quarter, it was 15%. NVIDIA was 122%, so it was impressive. It was down from 262% the quarter before. Meta, 22%, and it's been going down. 10% for Amazon, 2% for Tesla. You get the idea. The Magnificent Seven right now are growing their revenue slower than Palantir. And yet we still have a situation where Palantir only has 26% of the buys. All of those Mag 7 stocks, 75 and 80% of the analysts recommending it as a buy. So what does that mean? Well, on November 7th, the company is going to come out with their earnings. And if they continue the trend of beating earnings per share and revenue growth, you are going to see two things happen. First of all, analysts are going to start coming out and upgrading the stock. That is one of the most powerful catalysts over the short and long term, because what happens is when Wall Street talks, people still listen. When they come off of those sell recommendations and bring them up to buys, that is going to drive more buying power, not only from institutions, but individual investors like you and me. The second thing is look at the target price right now on Palantir. It's at $27.50 per share. That's where Wall Street thinks the stock should be. And right now the stock's at $43.13. You're going to see those target prices start to come up as well. They're going to raise them up into the 60s and the 70% range because they're now seeing the fundamental value. Now, one thing that everybody's going to start saying is, hey, CJ, you know what? Palantir, if I look, it's got a PE ratio of $233. Now, remember, the E part and the P part matter quite a bit. If you look at how they're going to start growing their earnings right now per share, that number should start coming up very quickly with the revenue growth. But I'll point out to July of 2023 when NVIDIA had a PE ratio of 200, and right now you've got a PE ratio of about 220 on Palantir. So valuation is in the eye of the market, not necessarily a valuation by just looking at a simple PE. I always like to put that into perspective here. So what do we expect to see from Palantir here as we move forward? Not over the next couple days, but I'm talking the next 6 months to the next year or so. Well, as you can see right now, the stock is right below, making those new all-time highs. That November 7th earnings report is likely to be the catalyst that takes us well above that all-time high. You have to break up above $45. We're just about 3% below that right now. Notice the 20-day or 20-month moving average is in a bullish trend. That means that the trend is your friend on this stock. When we look at the shorter term, I always like to look at the short-term daily chart because at heart, I always look for entries right now. And I should disclose that I do own Palantir shares as well as Leaps. I'll talk about how you can position for this trend in a second. But at that $42.5, $43 or so, think about this. The stock right now, if you look at it over the last couple of months, is up more than 40%, right? Heading into earnings, investors or the short-term traders are going to get a little bit nervous about that $43, $44 price, and I think you'll see a little bit of selling. So where does that leave you looking in the case of Palantir if you're looking to get in? Well, right here at that $40 level, round numbers. I'm talking about expectations in psychology. Round numbers always provide support for companies like this. The $40 level is going to be a key. And if that were to break the 37.50, look at the consolidation that we did right there and your 20-day moving average. That's the spot where you're going to find buyers coming in just ahead of the earnings. So to set this up for you, expect to see a little bit of weakness. November 7th is the earnings date. I'll expect to see maybe the week or so, maybe 2 weeks before that, investors pulling back, taking a little bit of those short-term profits right now. 37.50 is a spot that I look to buy in, and I'm looking on the long term. Now, in terms of where the stock goes from here, and let me pull up the other slide for you here because I do like to talk about where we head from here in my summary. So as I said, you look for a slight technical pullback as the stock breaches that new all-time high or gets really close to it before earnings. Round number support at 40, 37.50 is the next level where I see a buying opportunity on that pullback, a healthy pullback. Shares are likely to see that selling before November 7th. That's the earnings date, and I believe that they're going to come out with the trend that they've got in place right now and the contracts they've been announcing over the last quarter. And keep in mind that management upgraded their outlook for this quarter. So that November 7th number, management's already expecting it to be good. Typically, they're not going to do that unless things are going to be great. At that point, a good number is going to start to wake up all those Wall Street analysts, and you're going to see almost immediately the day after upgrades on the stock from hold to buy, from sells to hold, and more importantly, you're going to see those target prices coming up. Any positive news is what's going to drive that. Short term, you look for a target of $50 on Palantir. I think it could run there very quickly after that earnings announcement, and then $60 as your next level for the 6-month period, and that's a 3 to 6 month target. As for where the stock goes over the next year, talked about 150% return for Palantir here that we've seen over the last year. I believe that you match that performance, and the stock has an opportunity to trade up to an $80, $85, maybe even $90 price range over a 12-month period. Now, let's talk about how I position for that move personally. My approach, and I'm a long-term investor. I do trade, but I am a long-term investor. I buy and I hold the stock, first of all. And if I want to get a little fancy and generate my own dividend, maybe I sell covered calls on this, but I don't want to get called away on a stock that's got this much upside volatility. So be careful when you're doing that. So a buy and hold strategy is what I look at here. If I want to leverage the move a little bit using options, I don't buy 3 or 6 month options or something like that. No, I start looking at the 2026 and the 2027 leaps. Those are options that'll be available in January, and I buy 10 or 15% out of the money, knowing that the stock is going to move 50, 60, 70% over the next 6 to 12 months and continue higher. That's how I trade it from either a buy and hold standpoint or a leaps option standpoint. As for stops and anything like that, I always keep my eye on the horizon when I'm looking at an opportunity. Remember, this is a case where AI technology, the NVIDIAs of the world, are handing the baton over to the AI service companies, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the monetization in these stocks over the next couple of years. Hope I kept it very simple for you. As always, I wish you the best trading success. And remember to check out the link below to get our 5 free stock report every week, Monday morning, 8 o'clock. Before you get to trading, you'll get 5 stocks in your email box. It's a great way to start the week. All you have to do is click on the link below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm Chris Johnson, wishing you the best trading success. Have a great day.